Now let's switch gears and talk about Nigeria's electoral umpire, INEC, as it continues to face mounting criticism over its credibility, especially after the just concluded by-elections across parts of the state. What do these controversies mean for Nigeria's electoral integrity, especially against the backdrop of what's to come in 2027? We'll be speaking to the INEC's Deputy Director of Publicity, Mr. Wilfred Ifogah, who is joining the conversation virtually via Zoom from his residence here in Abuja. Mr. Wilfred Ifogah, thank you so much for joining us on the program. I appreciate you for taking the time. Right. Just want to get your initial reaction to what Malam Ibrahim Abdul Karim just said about the perception around Nigerian elections and how there appears to be this growing concern that our elections are getting worse and worse cycle after cycle. What do you have to say about it, especially against the backdrop of the just concluded elections over the weekend? It appears, Mr. Wilfred, I beg your apologies. We're going to have to take a moment breather and sort out the audio because we are unable to hear you at this moment. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick around.
Welcome to Trust TV, your gateway to the captivating essence of Nigerian history, culture, and society.
And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Delve into the depths of Nigeria's past with our insightful documentaries unraveling the intricacies of ancient civilizations and colonial influences that have shaped the nation's identity. Immerse yourself in the vibrant Nigerian traditions and customs as we showcase the diverse cultural landscape.
The early history of human existence can be traced to the heart of northern Nigeria. Here, archaeologists found evidence of a group of people whose...
All right, we're back to speak to Mr. Wilfred Ifogah, the Deputy Director of Publicity at the Independent National Electoral Commission. Mr. Ifogah, thank you so much for sticking around. Let's try it again. Your reaction to some of the comments that have criticized the quality of the just elections.
I said the mission of the commission is to create a credible election that is acceptable to one. It's to be our best management. I'm in a commission working with the electoral, the legal framework of Nigeria, to the guidelines of the commission. We do activities, and it's that not where we carry out its function, that all the critical stakeholders ensure a hitch-free process. Like when I have the process of planning the election, commission takes about 40% of this process. And is the contribution of stakeholders, the political parties themselves, and those services that will enable us carry out our function. By the time everyone works together, you'll find out that the process will be smooth. But what we'll find out that where the commission tried to meet up with its own obligation, we find out that all the stakeholders who don't really fall in line with some of the guiding rules and regulation in the conduct of election. Yes, if we go back to probably the we had recently, people might want to judge the turnout of this election, maybe with the general one. No, the elections we had were by-elections for legislative across the country, and somehow most voters don't really come out like that to participate in some of these elections. So using that the activities of the commission in order to establish its credibility will not be fair, actually.
Right. Mr. Ifogah, a lot of people would say, I mean, you take a look back at what happened in 2023. I mean, voter turnout was the lowest we've had in recent history, and that is something that continues to grow. But let's talk about INEC's neutrality, because there are some incidents where we've seen partisan officials of some of the political parties in possession of sensitive materials. What is the explanation as to how some of those materials have been found in the custody of party officials who have no business with the election, actually?
When you have materials, can you speak on this?
Okay, case in point, the state constituency election in Ganye, for instance. I'm sure you've seen the viral video involving the Northeast Vice Chairman of the APC, reportedly in possession of some sensitive material belonging to the electoral umpire. How do you explain to Nigerians that INEC has no idea how he ended up with those materials?
I have to correct something there. When we refer to sensitive materials, the commission looking at the result sheet, and of course we have and device as well. These are some of the sensitive materials we have. But for the viral video you're talking about, although I've not set my eyes on it, so ordinarily, an official that has been appointed and recruited by the commission to handle INEC materials are supposed to be the ones in of it.
Right. I mean, there's always the ideal situation, and then there's the real situation that ends up happening on election day. But have a listen to this one. The former governor of Rivers State and former Minister of Transportation, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, giving his 2 cents about INEC's integrity and the leadership overseeing the affairs of the electoral umpire. Have a listen.
I'm not the president. What advice? I've spoken to everybody concerned on this issue before the election. Spoken completely. There are those of us who oppose the reappointment of Mahmoud. The person who nominated him for appointment is a member of Tinubu's camp. So what are you expecting? Success? Here in Rivers State, Mahmoud worked on that wiki as executive secretary of Third Fund. So what you're having in Rivers is that APC, SDP, and others are contesting the election not against PDP, against INEC, against police.
So are you saying that the situation is hopeless now?
Completely hopeless. Are you hopeful? Be honest, as a pressman, are you hopeful?
Not one to mince words there, Mr. Rotimi Amechi, giving his 2 cents about INEC. I mean, this is something that he has echoed over and over. What is your reaction to, some of the choice words that Mr. Rotimi Amechi had to say about your chairman and his quote-unquote questionable neutrality?
Well, it's not in my position, actually. The criteria for appointing the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission is contained in the Constitution of Nigeria and, of course, the Electoral Act 2022. So everyone can go there to see if he's actually qualified or not. But if we go by that, that means if you want to pick or nominate a chairman for the commission, that means you have to go outside Nigeria before you're able to get someone to do it. Maybe whatever the case may be. I think the basic thing there is that having the person qualified and being able to perform in that capacity as chairman of the commission.
But Mr. Ifogah, I'm sure you understand the gravity of the situation when it comes to public trust. And that trust deficit when it comes to conducting elections is something that has become somewhat of a shadow that INEC has been dealing with, trying to regain public trust for the people to feel that, listen, your vote counts. How do you shake this off, this perception that INEC is not a neutral party when it comes to managing or conducting elections?
Okay. I think I have to be in this way. Like I did say, the law establishing the commission is there, and what we are supposed to do is guided by the law. And what INEC does is not to walk outside the law. I think the commission has tried to keep with the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Electoral Act, and of course, its principles and regulation. Remember, the commission is made up of 13 members, of which the chairman is, and of course, the members are drawn geopolitical of the country. And there are then, whatever happens, the constitution and the electoral framework guides their activities. And more so, there are other persons in the commission who work with them in order to ensure that whatever has been formulated, it is actually implemented. Like I say, I think there's one thing we fail to realize, that we have other stakeholders working with us in order to ensure a smooth process, we being the main managers of the process. Like I say, we have tried to keep up with our own aspects of ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. But somehow, all have intentionally don't want to keep up with speed in terms of development from the past. If there's one thing we need to know, that we have come a long way, and the Commission has actually tried to evolve from the activities of the past that actually gave us a negative narrative. For example, I think the thing is thing that is happening. Before now, you had a year of vote buying. So what is that thing that is now making sure, creating that opportunity for people to now start buying vote? That is because probably the Commission has been able to curb certain things, and now the people now know definitely, since the vote now counts, they decide to now go for the voters to canvass for votes, but this time around doing it in the wrong way, which is not legal, and that is buying of votes. So somehow we are looking at all these anomalies still, because exercise we have, we do review our activities, that of the Commission. We also invite these, even down to the presiding officers that work during elections, to come. We can best, surmount some of all these anomalies that do take place. So most time we review it, then not to also these groups to come up with suggestions on how we can curb some of the excesses of some states. But this, that is how far we have gone. Right? Yes, some also try where the laws need to be amended in order for us to be able to perform better. Of course, and that the National Assembly comes in order to actually formulate the necessary laws in order to curb that. Then where we need to change tack on our operations, we do that as well. Then for those, the electorate and of course the political class as well, in stakeholders and forum in order to educate them on what they need to do. But one thing that's key, this is not an issue of INEC alone. Everyone needs to be involved in the process. So a situation whereby maybe after you see some anomalies and things like that, the blame definitely shifts to INEC, even when the problem is not directly caused by the Commission itself, but from other stakeholders who actually are part of this process in order to ensure a smooth election.
Well, INEC as a regulator obviously is the one solely responsible for conducting free, fair and credible elections as far as the Nigerian Constitution is concerned. For many Nigerians, that is the only body that people can hold responsible if the elections don't go according to plan as far as the parameters of credibility and integrity is concerned. But let's segue a little bit into other conversations that also directly links to the issue of elections. Much has been said about the internal political crisis of some of the leading political parties in the country. I mean, going into this past Saturday's elections, you've had to deal with separate court orders that has forced the electoral umpire to add a couple of political parties to the ballot because of a court injunction. Talk to me about how INEC is dealing with all of these crises impacting the operations of some of the opposition parties, because some have pointed accusing fingers at INEC for not managing the situation well, thereby leading to this proliferation of crisis across our political arena. What is INEC's position about this conundrum facing some of our political parties today?
Well, like I said earlier on, we have our role to play as INEC. Of course, as part of our mandate, we register political parties. We also have the responsibility as well. But they have their own internal problems, and of course, it is their problem. So we don't double into that. So I think that's the best I can say about it. But I think what we encourage them to do is that they should maintain a good democratic practice as well, so that their activities will not snowball into affecting the main election exercise. And one thing I know is this: the commission is a law-abiding agency, and whatever comes up from the courts, we will always obey and implement.
Right. We're well aware of some of the recommendations that have been made in that engagement in Lagos. I think 140 something of them were thereabout, and we understand that there are ongoing efforts to amend some of the provisions of the Electoral Act ahead of 2027. Talk to me about what Nigerians can realistically expect. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we're hearing about people incarcerated being given an opportunity to vote. I mean, diaspora voting and the likes. How realistic are some of these options or amendments that INEC is trying to achieve in terms of actually adding value to the electoral process? Because there are some people who have reservations about these type of initiatives.
All right. Okay. Talking about giving opportunity to those incarcerated, probably let's put it clear: those are waiting trial. I think about a few weeks back, the Controller General of the Correctional Service paid a courtesy call on the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission in order to, bring up this issue. And of course, the chairman made him to know that the commission is not just lying low on that. And of course, but all what INEC needs is the enabling law for us to be able to, find out how we can do it best, so that the nitty-gritty about to, carry out the process, getting these people involved in the electoral process is done. So for that, I think there is a welcome idea. Then talking about diaspora voting, there are still some issues about the law that will allow these people to. So for now, not until that is done, and the commission cannot do anything for now. But as soon as the enabling law is passed, the commission will be able to implement that.
All right. Finally, before we let you go, Mr. Wilfred, the continuous voter registration. I mean, this is an exercise that is, as the name suggests, continuous, right? But talk to me about what we're doing regarding mopping up the voter register itself, because as we do know, I mean, as the circle of life suggests, people live and people die, and there's always a need to have an updated register that is actually based on the facts on the ground. What is INEC doing? I mean, we're adding a lot of people to the voter register, but are we also taking a look at, getting those people who are no longer with us off the register so that we can work with real and actual data?
Yes, just to let you know, and for others listening, yes, the commission has us all in its plan for the fact that we have started the continuous voter registration exercise with the online process, which started on the 18th. And of course, the in-person registration will begin on the 25th for them to be able to go to the INEC designated centers for them to be captured, because there are biometrics and photographs as well. Then in this process, we have certain periods that we are going to stop the exercise in order for us to integrate what we have done so far. Then thereafter, at the end of the exercise, we are going to have what we call the display of the preliminary register of voters. So what this period allows for is for individuals, the general public, to be able to scrutinize what we have done so far with the registration exercise, look at the names that have been included but yet to be integrated, and of course for names already in the register, so that they can view it and probably raise claims where the issue has to do with their own information if not properly entered. But where it has to do with others probably not eligible to be registered, or probably they are diseased or any other issue, or maybe they are foreigners and of course they are not eligible to register, they raise that objection. And that is where the commission can now come in, do the needful, scrutinize it properly, and get those names delisted. So that is the action. So that is where because for us as a commission, we cannot on our own things. You have to, the stakeholders, the electorate, those who know these persons, come up with these anomalies probably in the register, so that they can now help us for us to clean up this register and make it properly like you mentioned.
All right. Mr. Wilfred Ifogah, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you for the analysis.
Thanks for having me.
And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. Daily Politics returns tomorrow live on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you soon.